community fundraising is not only about fundraising, right? It's also about, it's a community building campaign, right? It's a marketing campaign. It's also a user acquisition campaign, which is extremely important, right? I think maybe a lot of the projects, they do not need more funding, but every project need more users. There are not that many projects on the market that need this requirement.
It is also very sad for our Web3 industry. Having a real product become a very rare phenomenon.
Initially, Erick Zhang didn't think the world needed another Launchpad, but after watching retail lose confidence and VCs pull back, he changed his mind. Now, he's backing projects that actually work with real users, real revenue, and real traction. In this episode, we dive into the rise of BuidlPad, why most token launches fail, and how Erick is quietly rewriting the rules of Web3 fundraising.
There's a lot of hustlers in the industry, but we need to make sure that we hustle in the right direction, right? If we hustle in the wrong direction, I think, nothing else matters.
Hello and welcome to Build It Up, where AI meets crypto, technology meets humanity, and East meets West. I'm Bill. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to take a second to say thank you for watching, subscribing, and being part of this growing community. But we noticed about 30% of our viewers haven't subscribed yet, and nearly 90% haven't left a like or a comment. So if you are watching this right now and enjoying the conversation, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. Now, let's get into it. Hey, Eric, how are you? Thank you for coming back to our episode again.
Sure, thanks for the invite, Bill.
Congrats on your Launchpad, BuidlPad. It has been, one of the most important topic in the industry. I recall, we had those type of conversation before, and even 2 years ago, you mentioned to me, you think there is a demand for a legit KYC-based Launchpad in the market, and there might be, some potential incubation direction you want to seek. But actually, even back then, I didn't understand that very well, why the market needs a independent Launchpad. I mean, all the exchanges, they're very savvy already. And how do you see it is a opportunity, since 2 years ago?
Previously, I also didn't think that there's a need for another Launchpad, right? Actually, 3 years ago, another friend asked me to do a Launchpad. I was like, no, because I thought there were a lot of other Launchpad on the market already.
So back then you say no because there is a coin list, or because, Binance and OKX, those mature exchange?
Back then, I was also not sure because exactly what you said, the centralized exchanges, they had, well, not exactly Launchpad, right? Because, a lot of them kind of slow down the exact community sale type of sales, but they have other programs, right? Which is a little bit similar to Launchpad. Is also a community distribution. Also, there were a few other independent platforms like CoinList, a few others, smaller ones. I was not sure there's enough demand either, right? That was 3 years ago. Then over the past 2 years, I also realized there were some issues. Like, first of all, retail users got wrecked, right? No one made money. I think most of the retail even lost money. If you look at the charts, it's down only, right? 90% of the, more than 90% of the projects, are down from their price on day one of TGE. If they bought token on the separate market, it's guaranteed that they lost money. Did not have access to the project in the earlier stage when the valuation was lower. Second, something happened to one of our portfolio as they were trying to raise only 2 million, one of the existing Launchpads, right? And it was actually not even sold out, which was very bad, right? Optics wise, they would rather not do it in the first place. Then I was like, okay, let's just do one by ourselves, right? Because we have engineers. Then we just asked the engineers to hustle for a few weeks, right? Actually, the platform was developed under a month. Then Solier, right, was very kind to collaborate with our team. Then we just launched this platform. So in the first place, it was only try to add value to our own portfolio projects. So that's how it got started.
So if I can take one step back and see the unique value proposition of your Launchpad, what kind of value they provide to their key stakeholder? I guess, there are three, maybe two, stakeholder apparently, which are the retail investor and also the project team. But also there is a potential, stakeholder, which are the exchange who is going to list those tokens. So what kind of value you think provide to those stakeholders?
Sure. For the retail users, they have opportunity to invest in the project in the earlier stage. And our requirement is also have the tokens unlocked on day one, right? So that they can have some liquidity, have some returns on day one. It's very similar to the ICO days back in the days, which I think makes a lot of sense, right? Because, one of the key issues in this cycle is no one made money, right? The VCs, retail users, some stakeholders as well. Then no one watch for the projects, right? If no one made money, right? Because most projects cannot have a loyal community, right? Who can keep watching for you post TG. So that's one very important thing, right? Very fundamental thing. Some users in your community, you have to let them make money, right? Then also recently we introduced this new feature through which the users can also, if it's a TVL project, users can also stake and contribute TVL to the projects, right? Including some of the examples like Falcon, Lombard, and the most recent one, Momentum. The users get some EL, so the TVL they contributed, and also they will be eligible for token allocation, right? So for the projects, to be honest, I think community fundraising is not only about fundraising, right? It's also about a community building campaign, right? It's a marketing campaign, right? It's also a user acquisition campaign, which is extremely, extremely important, right? I think maybe a lot of projects, they do not need more funding, but every project need more users, right? How to acquire users. Like the most recent example again for Momentum, the one that we are holding a public sale right now. Through the campaign, they actually acquired tens of thousands retail users to try their products.
Through the campaign on the BuidlPad right now.
Correct. Yeah, we ask users to try the product, right? To stake, provide LP, to earn some yield. Through this process, the users will know a little more about the project, right? And for the project, they acquire some users. So this is also another huge value add. Overall speaking, right? A BuidlPad on the product level, it looks like just a Launchpad, right? A community sale platform. But actually behind the things, there's actually a lot of work. We actually started to engage 2 months before the campaign starts, typically. To a certain extent, right? It's like a investment banking type of job, right? You work with the projects on the narrative crafting. You coordinate with a lot of KOLs on the market to find some angles to explain the difficult mechanism in an easy way to the retail, to the mass. So there's a lot of, you also do this type of so-called road shows, right? Online, offline. So there's a lot of work behind the things that in order to make sure that the token launch is very successful. Yeah, so that's basically how we do it and how we add value.
Okay, so basically the value proposition to them is they can enjoy the making money effect, which has been very rare in this season, right? And to the founders, it is not only a effective TGE fundraising, but also a sort of user engagement campaign, community campaign to them. So it's way beyond the capital raising itself.
We are trying to help those real solid projects, right, to gain enough attention, traction on the market. I think this is also a very meaningful thing to do. We do a very strict screening process, right? So in addition to the requirement I mentioned just now, we also try to see whether the projects have a relatively sustainable business, instead of a short-term hype. For example, right, the current one we are doing, Momentum, is a #1 DEX in the Sui ecosystem already. It's generating revenue. There's a lot of trading volume. It is also heavily endorsed by the Sui official team. That's how we picked it up in the first place. Also, most of the projects we launched, I have known the team for quite a while, to be honest. If I only got to know the team for a month, probably sometimes I can't make the call because I need to make sure that the team has strong integrity. They are true hustlers. They are resilient. That's has a lot to do with the longevity for the projects as well. Yeah, so I think given the very strict screening process and the very small number of projects we launched so far, I think that's how naturally it got recognized by the other stakeholders.
In the end, it sounds like the criteria or the bar to make a decision about what is a great project is kind of a universal standard over there, regardless you're running a major launchpad or it is a decision from a listing team from a major exchange, right? I know you are a investor but builder in the same time, and I think we exchanged the idea about some of your incubation in past few years. I guess some of them doesn't work and some of them, work in the end, especially for the BuidlPad. Regarding the incubation, regarding, to bootstrap a idea as an entrepreneur and founder, what is your takeaway in past few years? Also including your Binance career, how do you see the 0 to 1 takeaway?
You mean just in general?
Yeah, in general, like, I guess you also pop up some new ideas in past few years, right? And you try some, some doesn't work, some work. And regarding the ideation or from 0 to 1 bootstrap, etc., what is your key takeaway?
Every founder probably experienced different challenges, right? Actually, my takeaway for the past 2 years was there were only very limited number of use cases for crypto, to be honest.
It's just a open finance industry, right? So it's not like Web2, you can get into dozens of different sectors.
Exactly, right? There's not many verticals in the crypto industry. You have to be very, very careful about which direction you pick. Let's say if you pick a gaming vertical, right, in crypto, you're definitely guaranteed it's not going to perform that well.
Yeah, because gaming is beyond the finance industry. And the crypto, I think gradually we understand it is a finance, paradigm shift.
Correct. So regarding the use cases in crypto, it's only limited to fundraising, payment, and trading. And if you want to do something that has a higher likelihood to succeed, I feel that it has to fall under one of these three general categories, right? Of course, with each category, you should try to find your niche to your own strengths, advantage. I think there's a lot of hustlers in the industry, right? But we need to make sure that we hustle in the right direction, right? If we hustle in the wrong direction, I think nothing else matters. So that's the very, very important thing. Then the second thing is, I feel the industry is definitely evolving much, much faster than before compared to the last few cycles. Every 2 months, right, there's a narrative shift. If you keep chasing the trend, it's actually extremely, extremely difficult because you don't know what the trend will be after 2 or 3 months. You have to stick to one direction and keep hustling and believe that, one day, of course, this direction has to be fundamentally making sense, right? But you hope you're hustling, right? You try to kill the product, build a good tech, and at some point the trend will come back to the specific vertical that you are building, and you will be one of the first movers, right? Instead of keep chasing the trends, because you can never move as fast as how the trend evolves in the industry. What else? Let's see. Oh, another thing I was, I think related to the second point is we also need to ask ourselves, like, if there's one thing that we can do for the next few years, right? Let's say 2 years or to 5 years, what that one thing is without making big pivots. It has to be something that you fundamentally believe and also something you find interesting. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to stick to that one idea and keep hustling. Right. Otherwise, you will lose, interest. It has to be something that you fundamentally believe that it works. I think that's quite important as well. I was like, out of curiosity, was trying, some meme coins, etc. That just couldn't work, right? At least for me. I think it might work for some college case, but that's definitely not something that you can devote your time to over a long period of time, let's say 3 to 5 years. Yeah, I think that's probably the key things, to be honest. Regarding, the specifics, every founder have their own take or have their own, direction they need to pick based on, their own specific experience and their specific strength.
I do agree. Yeah, you start your point by the founder have to be focusing on the finance related, right? But even I think this lesson is very expensive. Today, it's easy for us to come to a conclusion that, crypto probably is major innovation of finance. But in past 3 years or 4 years, I think, there are so many capital, so many founders, want to get into the gaming or the social network, etc. And in the end, everyone just found that it doesn't work. And basically, that's an expensive lesson to the whole industry. And I think even now, there are still phenomenal capital and the founders are trying those. But I do agree with you. I think for any founder who want to be laser focused to the growth, better just focus on, or just bear that in mind. Crypto is a fintech 2.0 in a sense. And on top of that, I think there's a saying from Jeff Bezos, also echo with your idea that you want to build on something in a fast changing industry that doesn't need to change that much. And that's why, Jeff Bezos would want to build up the e-commerce or the cloud, etc. The internet, the technology industry might evolve along the way, but everyone needs to have a cloud, right? So that's something, you can stick with. And on top of that, the narrative come and go, but at least you have something real in the hand, and you will not easy to feel formal and wait for the narrative, come to your place in a sense.
Taking BuidlPad example, right? Public sale, community sale as an example. Fundraising is why it fundamentally makes sense, because fundraising is the killer app of crypto. Think about a person, right? Any individual in any corner of the world, with a few clicks, they can participate in the fundraising of a startup in Silicon Valley. Let's say it's very, very smooth and frictionless compared to the traditional way to do it. Because if you want to participate in the fundraising of a startup, right, so wiring, in the traditional ways, you have to sort out the banks, the foreign exchange, the cross-border payments, how troublesome that is. So for fundraising, this is actually one of the examples, right? That based on what you said, it won't change after, let's say, 5 years or 10 years. There will be still this need, right, in the long term. That's also partially the reason I think this community sale platform makes sense. Coming back to this BuidlPad topic.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I feel like DeFi crypto is another level of the internet industry competition. You start by a killer app, but in the end, everyone sort of are frenemy with each other in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, I think if that's the case, definitely the community will look forward to the next chapter. And also, I guess if there's a plan, you want to be a quasi one-stop shop in the future, and then definitely a BuidlPad token is very necessary by default, right?
We actually haven't thought about token that much, because I think that's probably something further down the road, not something that will happen in the short term. The reason being, if you look at the biggest winners in this cycle, basically the ones that make to the top of the on CMC in terms of the market cap, there's Hyperliquid, right? There's Pump, Dolphin, there's Asina, a few other examples. They were all very, very fundamentally strong. They were all have their product running for I think more than a year, to be honest, with a huge amount of revenue generated, with very, very strong PMF, right? And then they were able to do this, buyback or some other type of mechanism that can accrue value to the token. Then they launched a token, right? They were very patient. Then they launched a token and then start this healthy flywheel. This is very, very important. I think a lot of the projects, they die because they were impatient, right? They were rushing to launch a token too early and no value accrue to the token. And then the users quickly move on to something else because the users were just, farming the tokens and, didn't really care the product itself. That's basically one of the, lesson I saw, by looking at hundreds of cases this past 2 years, both the success and failed cases. So yeah, I think in the long run maybe, but in the short term that's definitely not something we focus on.
Yeah, that's a very interesting finding. So basically, issue a token can make the team rich, but the token this season who are very popular and with high market cap basically is a team who are generating phenomenal cash flow. And basically, those teams, they issue tokens successfully. Whoever, who just wanna, for the sake of issuing token to make money quickly, in the end, didn't do very well.
Exactly. As we all know, there's a lot of projects that is just a liquidity exit for the team itself. It's kind of sad, but I think that is not surprising either because it happened to stock market as well. It's just stock market is more regulated, right? It's tougher to do so. But if you want to build something relatively healthy, more sustainable, even medium to long term, you have to come back to the fundamentals, right? The first principles, right? It has to have PMF. It has to have revenue, have users before you go IPO or ICO, whatever it is, right? I think a lot of people just forget about those very fundamental basic things before they start the project.
Yeah, that's very well said. And if we can pivot the gears a little bit, I have another question regarding the stablecoin and the layer one. recently, there are some new layer one launching, and to be honest, I'm very confused about the layer one innovation for a very long period of time, because I feel like everyone wants to build up the airport, but there's very few airplane or airlines over there, which means the application. And this season, luckily we see a lot of layer one or layer two, they disappear or phase already, and we come across with several incumbent legit players like Ethereum, Solana, and Sui, etc. But recently, still, I see there some kind of layer one with the value proposition not only by ZK before, but now like with a stablecoin layer one, etc. How do you see the layer one sync up with the stablecoin thesis? Like, why stablecoin needs a specific layer one? Why not just go to Solana?
This cycle is an institutional cycle, to be honest, right? I think all the big institutions like Stripe, right, like PayPal, like those type of scale of companies, they want to build their own infra and hope that they can push their infra to other markets to find more users, right, so that they can just keep all the users within their own ecosystem. They do not want it to help build other people's ecosystem. That is typically the mindset of the big institutions, right? I think that has a lot to do with why this Stripe, Circle, etc., introduce their own chain. I actually do not think that fundamentally. I don't think there's a need for another layer one specifically for a new stablecoin, right? I think right now transaction speed, the cost can be further optimized, but I think there's diminishing marginal return. The innovation here is not necessarily the most important thing. It's more about the distribution. I think most of the stablecoin oriented layer ones that we have seen in the past a year or a few months, most of them won't work. That's my take. I don't think most of them could work, because it's either that fundamentally we do not need a new layer one, or those do not really have a real distribution channel or do not have a real institutional backing. However, I think the one that, for example, Stripe was trying to do, or there may be some other big institutions trying to do, like Circle, etc. Maybe there's a chance because they have distribution channel.
Yeah, it's like Alibaba want to do a Alipay, right?
Exactly, right. Alipay, Pay, they did not start as a standalone application, right? They integrated deeply into the existing ecosystem. So similarly, if these new layer ones, right, can tie into the existing big distribution channels, right, for example, the Stripe ecosystem, it will be a pretty frictionless experience for those Web2 clients who didn't want to deal with this crypto native stuff, right? Yeah, I think. However, I still think it's very difficult to compete with the existing very established chains like Tron, right, like Solana, because they such a huge first mover advantage already. But the Stripe, those very big institutions may have a chance. I would imagine in the future it will be a world with many different stablecoins with their own layer ones, but penetrating into very different markets, right? Very similar to the payment world in Web2.
And what is your take on the new launching? So maybe a semi-independent layer one like Plasma, Stables. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I try to be careful commenting on those because I'm not super optimistic, to be honest.
You don't think they are like PayPal or Stripe launch a Stripe chain? It's not that case.
I think very importantly, right, they do not have, at least I didn't see, they have a good distribution channel, which is the most important thing here, right? Stablecoin itself is a boring business. There's no moat around product or technology, right? It's a compliance play and it's like a distribution channel play. The other thing I would say is, especially the ones that have already launched a token, there's I'm not sure. Like there's value accrual to the token, right? Why they need to launch a token? Apparently the token so far didn't perform well.
It's a cash out token.
Bill, you are more blunt about this.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for the sharing today. And before we wrap up, could you do one more elevator pitch to all of our audience about BuidlPad and also about your new launching project, which you're collaborating with, Momentum?
Sure. So I think to the founders, right, we truly want to help the very solid, fundamentally strong project to launch the token very successfully. I think a lot of the first-time founders, they have very, very solid product and technology, but lack the playbook of the token launch. So that's something we can be very complementary partner to your project, to your tool. And we are very selective, right? We do not do like low quality ones. So, and we do not do a lot of projects in the meantime. So for every project we work with, we need to make sure that we can really spend enough meaningful time and energy and resource onto it to make sure that every single one we work with will perform well, right? So that's basically our approach. It's very, very different from most of the other platform how they operate. For the existing one, Momentum, is, as mentioned earlier, is one of the very few, right, on the market right now that have, revenue users, and is also top project in one of the most popular ecosystems today. And I think now the subscription period has just opened actually earlier today. Do try it out, and feel free to give us feedback. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I totally buy in. I'm gonna do it right away after our episode to subscribe the Momentum.
Thanks for the support.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for your time. See you
Yeah.
next time.
See you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for watching Build It Up. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. And if you would like to catch more stories and insights, you can follow me on LinkedIn, X, and of course, right here on YouTube. I'm Bill. See you in the next one.